welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Free Expression Friday series, an interview series from ABA's American Booksellers for Free Expression, celebrating the amazing work of booksellers, organizers, and book people in general, fighting for the right to read.
Welcome. I'm joined by Caroline Richmond of We Need Diverse Books. Caroline, can you just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Caroline Richmond. I am the executive director of We Need Diverse Books. I actually joined the organization as a volunteer back in 2014 when we got our start as a hashtag on Twitter. I've always been a big book lover. I'm also an author, and I just wanted to be part of a movement that was helping to diversify children's literature. So here I am now. I joined the staff formally in 2017, and it's just been really lovely to see how much we've grown since 2014.
And can you explain the mission of We Need Diverse Books for folks who might not yet be familiar with you? And yeah, you mentioned a little bit about how it came about, but tell us a little bit of that story.
Sure. So our mission is to create a world that is more empathetic and more literate through the power of diverse literature. We serve three main communities here at WNDB. The first would be diverse writers and illustrators. So we provide grants, mentorships, workshops to help them get published. We also serve diverse publishing professionals. So we're trying to diversify the publishing industry from within, getting diverse college students into the door, and so that they're the ones looking out for diverse books to acquire, producing them, editing them, designing them, and marketing them. And we also serve educators and students. So we donate a lot of diverse books nationwide, and we also provide some resources as well.
You said a little bit about when you came to this work, but can you expand a little bit on why this work is so important to you? Were there any inciting incidents that started you down the path? I mean, of course, you said you're an author, so it must be very personal in that sense. But yeah, why this mission?
Well, I was a huge bookworm as a kid. My dad would bring my siblings and me to the library or bookstore all the time. And so, being around books is just something that I have such warm, fuzzy memories with. And because I loved reading so much, that's where my interest came in writing. But throughout my childhood, I rarely saw myself ever on the page. I learned very well to put myself in other protagonists' shoes. And it wasn't until I was a freshman in high school that I finally was given a book where I not only saw myself represented, but my family. And that was The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. My freshman year English teacher had us read a few chapters of it in our class. And I remember her passing out the book and telling us to put it away because she was going to get started with a lesson. And I just read it under my desk. And I was a really good student. I always listened to what teachers said, but something about the narrative about Amy Tan's writing just pulled me in, and for the first time, I could see my grandma on the page, and I could see that relationship between Chinese moms and daughters. And it just clicked in my head that I could be a hero of the story. My family could be, the main characters in a book. And the reason I wanted to get involved with WNDB is because I was a new mom at the time in 2014, so I didn't want my kids to have to wait until they were teenagers to see themselves represented. But even more than that, I don't want any kids across our country to have to wait until they're teenagers or adults to finally feel like they've found their home, their place in literature. So I know there's still so much work to be done, but it is really rewarding that I can take my kids now to a library or bookstore, and it's not very hard to find books for them where they can see characters like themselves on the page.
And can you say a little bit about the process? How does We Need Diverse Books do what it does?
So we run various programs for the different communities we serve. So I guess to illustrate how all our programs are connected, I'll kind of tell a story of an author who's kind of gone through the pipeline and how their experience has been going through our initiative. So there's a writer named Amina Lukman Dawson, a writer in Northern Virginia who applied for and received one of our mentorships in 2019. So we paired her with a mentor, Kathy Appelt, who's this very lauded Newbery honoree. And together they worked for a year revising Amina's manuscript, which is a middle grade historical novel. And after that, after her mentorship concluded, she was able to find an agent and shopped her book around to different publishers. And she ended up having her book bought by an editor at Hachette Book Group. And the editor is named Alex Hightower. And Alex, during college, participated in our internship grant program. So that is a grant we give to college students to help them get their foot into the industry so that they can move to New York and, kind of learn and absorb everything that they can during an internship. So that was Alex's connection to WNDB. And then after Amina's book was published, it's called Free Water. It got a lot of starred reviews, and it actually won the Newbery in 2023, which was so amazing. And WNDB then bought the book and donated it to schools and libraries nationwide. So that kind of just shows the pipeline of what we're trying to do. We are trying to affect change across the entire publishing process.
And I want to focus, if we can, on the last part of that pipeline, the book donations.
Mm-hmm.
How can you expand on how that works? What kind of books are you sending? Who's receiving those books?
So we've given away, I'd say, over 120,000 diverse books. We specialize in providing diverse books by diverse creators. It's really important for us that the books we give away have that lived experience by the author. We're national in focus. So we work with educators across all 50 states and in the US territories as well. We mainly communicate with our educators through social media and our newsletters. And we just announce giveaways throughout the school year saying like, hey, we have a donation of these books. If you would like them, feel free to apply. And that's how we kind of get our books out the door. A lot of times we try to donate the books by the writers and illustrators who've come through our programming, like Amina. It's our way of, supporting these creators long after they might have finished their mentorship or spent their grant that they've gotten from us.
That's incredible.
Oh, thanks.
And in terms of the book donations, are you privy to any of the positive impacts of sort of these donated books reaching their destination?
Yeah, we always ask our educators, please give us an update if you can, send pictures. And a lot of the testimonials they give us are just so heartwarming. One of our focuses is providing books by Native writers and illustrators to Native majority schools, just because there's been such a dearth of Native literature by Native creators in the pipeline. And, sometimes the book we send to these students might be that first book where they ever see themselves and their culture represented. I mentioned Amina as one of our previous mentees who's gone on to, publish her stories. Another author is Malia Maunakea, who is another one of our 2019 mentees who published her middle grade novel a few years ago about her Native Hawaiian culture. And we sent her on a school tour in Hawaii back to her native state, where she went around to a bunch of different schools across all the islands. And we definitely heard back from some of the teachers saying, like, this is the first book where these kids have ever seen, a character who looks like them, on the page. And it's so steeped in Native mythology and life. So it was really heartwarming to see that and to see the pictures of Malia interacting with the kids. Like, one thing that was really important for us, because it was important to Malia, was that she was able to see kids outside of Oahu, because she said when publishers do send an author to Hawaii, it's usually just to Oahu or Maui, and then they head back. And she's like, I really want to hit up all the other islands that never get author visits. So we were able to send her to the smaller islands, and it's just been really meaningful to see, the impact that's had.
And how can folks get involved? How can they help?
I would say it's really helpful just to read diverse books by diverse authors. Buy them from your local indie bookstore if you can. If you don't have one near you, there's places online where you can still support an indie bookstore across the country. That really does make a difference, because the more sales we give to these books, the easier it is for these authors to continue selling their works to publishers. And also spread the word. You can recommend to your library to acquire more of these titles. If you want to get involved at WNDB, if you're an educator yourself, please subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on social media so you can read up on when we have a book giveaway, so that you can apply. If you live in DC, we do an annual award ceremony here. We'd love to have you come. It's absolutely free to the public. But yeah, I think just spreading the word and reading is big. It's a big way to contribute.
Caroline Richmond, thank you so much for your amazing work and for the amazing work of We Need Diverse Books. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!